Come on over here. Come on over here. No, you flipped me off. Come on, coward. No. Come on. You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
We're talking about PunchLine. Nah, not that PunchLine. This one, written by Bill Williams and illustrated by Matthew Weldon. But you must be wondering, what's my game here? What makes this book special enough that I'd make a video on it, considering the litany of videos I make on all the strange things that exist, critiquing the most disturbing and the worst of the worst, featuring protagonists that have been stewing in the sauces of hell their entire life. I think we all know what I'm talking about, right? It's not that this book is a wholesome book. Well, it's that, and, well, everything else. Where most superhero books depict its hero characters intoxicated by their own power and brewing in their self-righteousness, sometimes because of their mythic level status and earth-altering actions, at times being utterly oblivious to the pain and destruction they cause and being completely powerless to rectify any of their wrongdoings despite how much power they have. PunchLine, by Bill Williams and penned by Matthew Weldon, focuses on creating a heroine worthy of people's adoration with not world-changing deeds she performs, but through smaller actions that make her a hero. In the same way, Ultimate Spider-Man, written by Brian Michael Bendis, was depicted at the start of the Ultimate Universe, being completely polar opposite to the Marvel Cinematic Universe's version of Spider-Man and any depiction of Spider-Man shown on the big screen, who decides to protect and serve the 1% instead of defending the 99% of common people. The reason why I hate the MCU Spider-Man so much is because he simps for Tony Stark, and Peter fails to see nigh grasp the fact that Tony Stark was a bad person before he became Iron Man, and that Iron Man, or Tony Stark, is a human with a major flaw, that he's an asshole, and isn't a hero you'd want people aspiring to be. And what makes this problem egregiously more damaging is that the MCU Spider-Man's main rogues gallery consists of two villains directly created by Tony Stark's negligence. It's even explained to Peter by the Vulture that Tony Stark is a part of the 1% to 3%, whereas Peter is a part of the third estate, and that if and when he misses about 2 or 3 paychecks from work, he'll be going homeless. It's ideas like that, Spider-Man being depicted as everyone else and not a part of the 3% of millionaires in the world, that makes him such a great hero, because Spider-Man could be anyone that does heroic deeds. That's why Marvel's Spider-Man, the video game, not the TV show, that show's horrific, is such a good video game, and that's why the Spectacular Spider-Man animated TV show is one of the best, in my opinion, iterations of Spider-Man to ever exist streamlined to TV. For Seema, the heroine of PunchLine, is kind of like Spider-Man. She helps people. She's here to help, helping people at times in ways that doesn't include violence and interacting with different people, investing in their goals to empower them to bolster their own lives. Instead of depicting the heroes and their supporting characters of this story as if, I don't know, they were in William Shakespeare's Hamlet, bringing out the worst in people with such empty ambition. Tom King! Frank Miller! Ultimately, in the world of superheroes where heroic deeds are committed, heroes need to change people by helping them in a way that their kindness and compassion can be replicated and spread, therefore making that said hero worthy of the adoration they receive in their endeavors to create a better world. Unfortunately, that's not every hero coming out of the house of Marvel and DC. So-called heroes that should be called terrorists, like Wally West, who had this character assassinated by Tom King in Heroes in Crisis, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, who was always a bad character, in Civil War II by Brian Michael Bendis, but goes a little bit further than that. Captain America, who had his character disemboweled by Nick Spencer, who accidentally rewrote Marvel's Dark Reign event in the form of Secret Empire, but proved that he was a good writer, resetting Spider-Man to his status quo instead of whatever the hell Dan Slott was doing. But that doesn't matter because Ta-Nehisi Coates got a hold of Captain America and stepped on him like a gopher. With the list ever expanding, showcasing heroes in rather negative light to a point where it's spewing into our reality, showcasing how influential superhero media is. Police officers and politicians wanting to wear the Punisher symbol on their uniforms, but oddly enough, none of them want to embody the compassion and understanding or the hope Superman and Wonder Woman represent, but want to wear the Punisher skull because it's badass. I personally learned most of my moral decorum through characters like Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman, but for some reason the people who are tasked to defend the lives of innocent people, stand for the law and order and what's right because it's right, want to pump up the Punisher killer and mass murdering vigilante on a pedestal because, I don't know. I mean, even writer Matthew Rosenberg, the person who was writing Punisher at the time, had to write a little meta commentary on why the Punisher isn't someone you should idolize, and the character's creator speaking up against the matter, saying that the Punisher isn't a hero. He's just a fucked up man. Even world-acclaimed The Punisher Max by Garth Ennis, which is a masterpiece in my opinion, depicts Frank Castle in a world without superheroes, in a world very similar to our own, as a sadistic psychopath while evaluating the human condition of the world around him and being a deep dive into the psychology of the character. Now, it's beyond obvious that there are people in this world that do deserve a bullet between the eyes, as some of the events and storylines featured in Punisher Max are grounded in reality and based off some events that happened to people but still remains a work of fiction, like storylines such as Slavers. But overall, the Punisher's apathetic, cynical, and sordid persona towards other human beings, which allows him to do these horrific acts of violence onto other people, should never be emulated because it's wrong. Now, there's nothing wrong with stories like Court of the Owls, Death of the Family, Tower of Babel, The Long Halloween, Superman, Red Sun, Kingdom Come, and Watchmen and the sort. However, when writers are completely oblivious to the content they are making nor have the skill to successfully communicate the ideas they are writing about, like Ultimatum, Civil War 2, which was just a cash grab, Identity Crisis, and the worst of the worst, Heroes in Crisis, written by, of course, Tom King, aka William Shakespeare. Wait, hold up. Several horrible things have happened around this time. Brian Michael Bendis aged up Jonathan Kent, so if you like Super Sons, yeah, that's gone. Nightwing got his brains plastered onto the wall and became Rick Grayson. The Wonder Woman books continued to be a heaping pile of garbage. Harley Quinn somehow got a 75-issue series, and she became Deadpool. Titans got canceled because, again, Dick Grayson got his brains blown out and got amnesia and became Rick Grayson again, and the writing was bad. It's just a whole shebang and laundry list of things that doesn't compare what happens to Wally West in Heroes in Crisis, that just makes some of the heroes in DC Comics kinda bad. So, long story short of Heroes in Crisis is, there's this place called Sanctuary where superheroes go to get their head straight if they're having mental issues, but for whatever reason Tom King decided, who again writes like this. I keep bringing this up because it just doesn't get any better, it just keeps going. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, Wally West, who's supposed to be the Flash, a hero based around optimism and who loves being superheroes and uses being a superhero to solve most of his problems, and he likes helping people because that's the right thing, and he's a decent, selfless human being that says, I see that person fell down and looks like they need help getting up, let me help them, comes to the thinly lined, mind-numbing conclusion that Sanctuary, a mental hospital, was solely built for him to carry the weight of his own suffering and issues, like him being from an alternate timeline that was retconned away, and him missing his children that he remembers from that said timeline. Now, he decides to selfishly hack into Sanctuary's system to see how messed up everyone else is, has a panic attack, then discharges a Speed Force bomb from within his body, killing multiple people because if the Speedster doesn't hold back their power, this is what usually happens. The Speed Force runs rampant and kills people because that's just the thing it does. No, that's not what it does. No, Tom King! Tom King made this up for this story specifically so this would happen! But this is where the story takes a massive nosedive, and you begin to wonder if the DC editorial was in the back smoking some glue while Tom King was snickering as he was writing this. So, after killing all of these people, hell, before any of these characters' bodies hit the grass, Wally West knows immediately what to do because he's a crime scene analyst, and using the knowledge of solving hundreds of cases, he decides to run away from the crime scene and into the Speed Force, where he then fabricates a crime scenario that frames Harley Quinn and Booster Gold as murderers, then travels throughout time, makes a Speed Force clone of himself so nobody suspects he did it because Wally West is evil like that now and likes to desecrate bodies and dig down innocent people because of course he does. No. Villains do that. Villains! I shouldn't have to explain why that's bad, but it's bad. It's really, really bad. To the point where the positive, iconic position superheroes hold is solely puked on because a writer believes they're the cool kid on the block and they got the swiftiest bike in the neighborhood. Now we have characters labeled as superheroes despite whether or not they have redeemed themselves in a lofty miniseries that can reverse the damage that's already been dealt to the character, leaving you to wonder if these characters are still heroes despite what they've done. The very idea that somehow and in some way certain people can view these characters as heroes without any question, showcasing how tarnished superheroes have become, is a problem. And to continue to emphasize how bad some of this is, Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, is a character I utterly despise as much as Booster Gold, whose origin story is that she was in school and commanded her teacher or instructor to belittle her because she was an African American woman and because she was black, and her teacher belittled her, saying she'll never become anyone or as great as Tony Stark. She did, and she became better than Tony Stark because of course she did. These aren't heroes, they're sociopaths. But to return to Bill Williams and Matthew Weldon's punchline, Jessie McGrath attempts to create a better world by doing the right thing because it's right and no other reason besides that. Jessie's motivations are purely genuine, with the story taking a one-size-fits-all shoe approach that disappointingly doesn't feature any supervillains as of yet, considering the story is within its infancy, but prepares for a greater story where its main heroine should and hopefully will be broken down, tested, and made stronger from their experience, discovering more of a purpose and direction in life from the interaction she has with people during her adventures, as everything else boils down to character context and intent for the main and supporting characters that sail through the tales of the story, where superheroes are running around like rabbits making rugrats. The story is fairly simple. Jessie encounters a character named Mel, a somewhat mysterious femme fatale mercenary heroine who's aligned with a secret society known as the Daughters of Hercules, who's dying at a graveyard, whereas Jessie's on a bench, sitting reminiscing about her brother, who's dead, until Mel comes out of nowhere, bloody and broken, transferring her powers onto her so she can live. At the start of the story, it's implied Mel is so self-centered it corrupted her heroic image, as she selfishly seems to believe that she alone can be the man on the wall and hold the world's problems at bay until, well, she couldn't anymore, having to pass the torch to someone whose morals juxtapose her cynical nature that in the long term will help the next generation of heroes shape a better future, hopefully. Following that, well, it's just these two characters' adventures in a world full of superheroes. To reiterate again, there's only 10 issues of this book. As of yet, there aren't any real supervillains, but the book still remains an enjoyable read because it's wholesome and it's very simple, compared to other books I have read where you have to do mental gymnastics to try to at least justify the actions of the main character, not having an understanding of the pissing pot known as the economics that drive the world and everything else. But each single issue of Punchline features its own set of conflicts that character needs to confront or overcome. There are characters that could be considered as villains as well, such as Sawtooth, Pagan, the Banshee, Rosevera, the Russian cosmonaut SVR agents, but at the present moment, the story hasn't introduced a recurring central antagonist where Versima has to put up or shut up. I'm talking villains like Doctor Doom, Black Adam, the Joker, Lex Luthor, Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. You know, the works. As I stated priorly, I love characters who are challenged both by their enemies and something within themselves, and the characters presented in this book walk a line of a tightrope between living and the impending doom that could be around the corner. It's exciting waiting for everything just to fall apart. I mean, if you're gonna give a bunch of pros to a character in the story, then the hero's gonna need to face and overcome a metric ton of cons, because why not? That's fun. There are interesting storylines ahead to explore that could easily just blow up, and I want it to blow up. I want it to be big too. I'm talking Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball big, like Jesse's father's being a henchman of a supervillain and the repercussions of his actions screwing his boss over, Jesse becoming an honorary member of a secret society or a cult of superheroes who have existed for over a millennia, and a cabal of potentially evil supervillains that are secretly governing the city using heroes as a means to an end. Overall, I do enjoy my dark, gritty, and gravy stories where the delineation of good and evil is blurry instead of a straight line, but with the cesspit of bad superhero comics out there currently trying to subvert expectations, quote unquote, but don't, having something like this that brings superheroes back to its roots with relatable characters and them representing positive things, that's a good thing to have. There's nothing wrong with celebrating superheroes and re-examining their origins. There's an appreciation in that. Superheroes are awesome.